What's a story you don't tell people because they wouldn't believe it? I don't tell this story because it's just a little too strange. Like a glitch in the Matrix. I am a skeptic by nature, BTW, and I do think it was a big coincidence, but it's just odd as hell. So one day I'm at home and I get a phone call. On the other end is a young woman and someone called her from this number and said they had her cat. Well, I told her she must have the wrong number because I certainly didn't call her and I don't have anyone's cat. So that was it and she hung up. About 10 minutes later I go to get my mail. I'm on the first floor, leaving my apartment door open, and as soon as I open the door to the vestibule, where the mailboxes are, in sprints a black and white cat into my apartment. I go back into my apartment and there's this cat sitting, perching, on the arm of my couch, staring at me. I'm kind of surprised at this point. I mean, I just told someone I didn't have any random cats in my apartment and suddenly there's one on my couch. Anyway, so I notice the cat has a tag on its collar. Hi, my name is Skittles, not real name. If I'm lost, call 3034X. So I call the number. It's the young woman who just called me 10 minutes ago. This is going to sound weird, I said, but now I have your cat. Well, she came over, looked at me very suspiciously and thanked me and left. I have no explanation for this. I accept it's a coincidence, but it's a hell of a coincidence. Most people don't believe me when I tell them I got stabbed in middle school, but to be fair, the scar on my stomach looks kind of surgical. This guy had been picking on one of my friends all semester in study hall, then the teacher left and he threw a stapler at my friend, so I stood up. He walked over and punched me in the face. We started fighting. At one point he fell against the teacher's desk, grabbed something and swung at me, hitting me in the stomach. It didn't faze me too badly at the time because my 13-year-old adrenaline was pumping. I got him in a headlock right after that and ended the fight. Blood everywhere. Apparently he had grabbed an X-Acto knife and sliced me open a good bit. It was pretty deep, hurt like fucking hell. As soon as I realized what had happened, had to go to the hospital. Here is the icing on the cake. Because of the zero-tolerance policy in the school, after there was an investigation to find out what happened and it was determined that we were fighting, I was put in ISS for the entire last week of middle school, for standing up for my friend and getting stabbed. I was also grounded by my parents. I work security at a double lockdown, inpatient psychiatric hospital. We have several units that specialize in both chemical dependence and mental health disorders. My unit is the stabilization unit, SU. So if you're really off your rocker or you feel like getting violent, you come visit me. We get a call for a possibly violent patient and I go check it out. It's a very tall, very slender young girl wearing what can only charitably be described as rags. Her hair is unkempt and clearly has become estranged from shampoo, and she is covered from head to toe in filth that I'm praying is not her own. She's in rough shape, clearly sick, and needs some help. She doesn't respond to any verbal questions or commands, but we can lead her around pretty easily. I'm starting to wonder why they called me up. They tell me to put her on the SU, and a couple nurses are going to clean her up a little bit, put her in scrubs, and get her sorted out. They lead her into the shower, and the patient starts screaming. Then the nurses start screaming. Then everyone starts screaming. This poor young woman is covered in what are clearly human bite marks. Everyone is freaking the fuck out. The patient didn't want to be undressed and is lashing out wildly, so she had to be put in 4-point restraints, wrists and ankles tied to the bed. All the staff are in various stages of shock, crying, praying, rending of garments, etc. Someone had clearly been keeping this young, mentally ill girl captive and abusing her for quite some time. The bites are across her torso and appendages, and there are both new and old ones. The nursing supervisor immediately calls the cops and we just stand around staring blankly at each other, thinking about how fucked up people are to each other, and the evil in this world. One of the nurses, who had been in psych nursing longer than I have been alive, suddenly yells, "You gotta be fucking kidding me." The patient had craned her neck over and sunk her teeth into the meat of her upper arm, blood oozing from between her lips. We had to put a spit shield over her face to stop her from trying. All of the bites were self-inflicted. She was able to contort herself in ways that I didn't think possible. I still think about her a lot, and I don't think yoga is as sexy anymore. When I was about 9 or 10, my grandparents and I were living in a somewhat large town in Pennsylvania. I would ride my bike around the block we lived on and never had many problems until one day it was close to sunset and I was just about to turn the last corner that looped back to the road our house was on. A large group of people were outside of their house and they were all laughing loudly and goofing off, I assume. They decided to sort of form a wall across the sidewalk in front of me, while more of them kind of boxed me in from behind. One of them, a guy, stepped forward and grabbed my handlebars, got right in my face and started yelling at me while his friends laughed and carried on. He pushed me off of the bike onto the ground and started laughing manically. He kind of pushed the bike hard, it landed on me, and he started moving towards me again, so I jumped up, pulled my bike with me kind of into a bush on the side to get away, got on it and pedaled like hell to get home. My grandma was pretty pissed I was banged up, but thought it was my fault for being a stupid kid. About 2 weeks later I found a newspaper on the kitchen table with that guy's face on the front cover. He was arrested for killing an old lady just down the road from our house. My grandma never believed me, but I could never forget that guy's face. When I lived in China, people often asked me what was different about life in the US. I told them in the US we don't keep small hot water heaters in our bathrooms. We have a large hot water heater in our basements that send hot water to every faucet in the house. I got called a liar enough times that I finally stopped bringing it up. In the US I was once asked the same question and I told them that in China they have small wall-mounted hot water heaters in their bathrooms for showers. Again I got called a liar. There is just no pleasing some people. My girlfriend doesn't leave any hair in the bathroom after she showers at my place. Hand hairs don't really shed. Okay, so I don't like to tell this story because it's absurdly unbelievable, like I myself don't even believe it, but my friend swears by it. A couple years ago at Bonnaroo, just after the Alt J show got out, me and my friend are coming down off some decent acid, and I decide that I could really fucking go for a Wonder Waffle. So I'm in line waiting, and I finally get my delicious ice cream treat, when I turn around and an older gentleman says to me, "You know, there's only one place in the world you're gonna find a treat like that." I, being ever the quick-witted young lad I am, only responded with "Good, 'cause I'm fucking starvin'," which didn't even make sense, and turn around to put chocolate and shit on my waffle. When I turn around, the gentleman is gone and my friend has this dumb look on his face, and while we're walking away from the WW stand he says to me, "Dude, you know who that was, right?" And I say something along the lines of, "I don't know, some old dude?" And he looks at me with the dumbest smile ever and says, "Dude, that was fucking Paul McCartney." And I'm just standing there with this dumbfounded look on my face that says there was no way in hell that was Paul McCartney. So that's my potential encounter with Paul McCartney, and I totally understand if you don't believe me. I don't even believe it. TL, Doctor may have accidentally brodosed Sir Paul McCartney. I was driving after the '04 Super Bowl, stormy night, no alcohol or anything. Highway had one lane plowed. So I am driving along. About a mile distance between me and cars from me in both directions. It's snowing but I can see well. My car was made for this shit, 4x4 big enough tires, a little top heavy. So as I am going down the road, my steering wheel all of a sudden goes crazy. Turning left then right then left, and back a few times. Caught me off guard for sure, but I couldn't stop it. The funny thing was I was still going straight, nothing wrong. White knuckles, adrenaline pumping, trying to comprehend what just happened. It happens again before I can calm down. I hold the wheel as hard as I possibly can. It goes left, regardless of my efforts. It slams over to the right, and my rear wheels follow suit. At this moment my steering wheel unlocks, time slows down, and my experience kicks in. Start fixing it, but my car picked up speed in the other direction and just did a 300 spin, so my rear is heading to the median. As nothing I could do to fix this situation, it was clear that I was heading for some doom. But a calmness overtook me. I was going fast enough to flip my car. And if you've been in a car crash, you know the feeling of coming to a halt in an instant. Bang, my car went, stalled out from the crash. I am able to move, look back, don't see damage. Try to start my car, it starts. Looking down the road I see some cars coming. Figures I should get to the side or the rest stop a half mile up. My car is running fine and I make it to the rest stop. I pull into the first parking spot and run around the car since I am no longer in danger. Not a scratch on her, no dent, nothing. I have tried to work out what happened with my steering and how I walked away with not a scratch on my car, but I have no logical answer. I was put into peril and taken out by some force not of my own. Edit: I don't have the Jeep anymore, can't check it, but at the time things were normal in the car. Never lifted it or modded beyond bumpers and steps. I have experienced icy roads and been pushed over a lane by the wind and kept control. Used to power slide through curvy roads and learned how to switch from going reverse to going forwards without stopping. I have had ice build up on my car, but it restricts you from my experience not turn the wheel. When I was 8 I loved to climb into trees. One day it was very hot and I was playing outside in Speedos. Close to our house was a tree I just loved to climb, the branches were just perfect. This tree was surrounded by stinging nettle. You probably can guess it already. I did climb the tree that day with only my swimming trousers on. A branch broke and I fell right into the nettles. It hurt a lot. I jumped on my bike, nettled from head to toe, and in a blind panic I drove direction home. This was on a small path going downhill. I lost control over my bike, hit a pole with my head and fainted. My neighbor friend found me and she called my parents, who called 911. I was taken to hospital with a severe concussion and nettle poisoning. In my Speedo. My brother was chilling in his room in the basement last summer, playing Xbox with his headphones on. He thought he heard a weird noise upstairs but just thought it was our older brother getting home since he generally sounds like a herd of elephants. He took his headphones off and heard the front door slamming. He decided to go upstairs to grab a snack and see who else was home now. He ran up the stairs and noticed the air was a little hazy. He opened the door to the garage to check for vehicles indicating that people were home, and flames came shooting out at him. Our house was on fire. Turns out the noises upstairs were from a neighbor who saw the fire and ran into the house. I had left the front door unlocked when I left 2 hours previously. The neighbor had grabbed our dog and yelled to see if anyone else was home, then ran out. The fire started in the garage and spread to the roof/attic. It melted our smoke detectors from above, so the alarms never went off. When my brother realized the house was on fire, he ran back downstairs because he thought I was still home. When he saw that I wasn't in my bedroom, he ran back upstairs, looked for our dog, then finally saw the neighbor holding her outside. He took 5 steps outside, saw that our mom's vehicle in the driveway was very close to the fire, and thought he should grab her keys to back it up. He turned around and there was fire entirely blocking the front door. Good thing, because if he tried to start it, it may have exploded with how hot it was. He called my parents after calling 911 and my mom laughed because she thought he was joking. He wasn't. Our house burnt down in the middle of the day, plus my mom's vehicle ended up lighting on fire and basically melted from the heat. The very next day, I received my acceptance letter for med school in the mail. Subscription is optional, but appreciated.